Catherine had always been a lover of music, but she had never thought of herself as an expert. Sure, she could play a little piano and hum along to a few tunes on her guitar, but she'd never been as absorbed in the world of music as others. Until, of course, she heard the invitation. It came on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday, slipped into her mailbox in an envelope with no return address, just her name in bold black letters. The writing was precise, yet elegant, each letter carefully formed, almost as if it had been hand-delivered by someone with too much time on their hands. Inside the envelope, a single piece of paper was folded neatly. The words on the page were typed, but they carried an eerie weight. She read them aloud, even though she wasn't sure why she felt the need to. Catherine, we know what you seek. The answers you've been looking for can be found in the music you hear at night. There's a place where all the world's forgotten songs lie dormant. Come to the chapel at the edge of the woods. We will show you what lies beyond the music. No signature, no contact information, just a promise, a cryptic invitation. Catherine had always been a curious person, and when it came to music, her obsession with finding the deepest truths about sound, history, and emotion had become almost compulsive. For years, she had studied music theory, searched through forgotten archives, and collected obscure recordings in an effort to find that one song that could change everything. The promise of something beyond music, the idea that there might be something hidden in the very sound waves she adored, was irresistible. Her heart raced at the thought. She couldn't ignore it. The location mentioned in the letter, however, was unfamiliar. An old chapel at the edge of a forest. Catherine had lived in the town for years but had never heard of such a chapel. It was strange, almost suspicious, but her curiosity outweighed her doubt. Without hesitation, she packed a bag and headed to the chapel. Catherine drove through the quiet countryside, her car headlights cutting through the growing darkness. The further she went, the less familiar the terrain became, the trees growing thicker around her, casting long shadows over the narrow road. The sense of unease in her gut was growing, but she couldn't stop herself now. At last, she reached the chapel, an old stone building that looked as if it had been abandoned for decades. The roof sagged under the weight of years, and ivy crept up the walls, entwining the structure in its green embrace. The chapel stood in eerie silence, almost blending into the surrounding trees as if nature itself had claimed it. Catherine parked her car and hesitated before stepping out. The air was cold and damp, and a thick fog clung to the ground, obscuring her view. She felt a shiver run through her, but she pushed the feeling aside. She had come this far, and there was no turning back. She walked up to the heavy wooden doors, which creaked as she pulled them open. The air inside was musty, thick with the scent of old stone and dust. The chapel was dark, save for the faint light coming from the stained glass windows, which cast a strange glow across the room. She stepped inside and looked around, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. At the front of the chapel was a raised platform, and on it stood a grand piano, its keys yellowed with age. But it wasn't just the piano that caught Catherine's attention. It was the sound, the faintest whisper of a melody that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. It was almost imperceptible at first, like the echoes of a forgotten tune. But as Catherine moved closer to the piano, the melody grew louder, clearer. Her heart quickened as she approached the instrument. There was something haunting about the music, something otherworldly. As she reached out to touch the piano keys, a voice interrupted her. "You've come." Catherine spun around, her breath catching in her throat. Standing in the shadows at the back of the chapel was a figure, a man tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. His dark hair was neatly combed, and he wore a black suit, though it was slightly tattered at the edges. He looked out of place, but his eyes were calm, almost welcoming. "You must be the one who sent the letter," Catherine said, though her voice trembled. "I am," the man replied. His voice was smooth, almost melodic, like the music that still lingered in the air. "I've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" Catherine asked, her curiosity piqued. "Who are you?" The man smiled, though it was a strange, hollow expression. "My name is Adrian. I'm the keeper of the music." "The keeper of the music?" Catherine repeated. "What do you mean?" Adrian stepped forward, his eyes never leaving hers. "This chapel, this place, is where all the forgotten songs of the world gather. The ones that have been lost to time, the melodies that were never heard, the music that,